Well, Cancer, it's February 2019. That came around quickly. Thanks for joining me, and to those of you that are new, thanks for plugging in and listening to what I have to say. It's very difficult differentiating yourself from, a lot of other astrologers. I mean, after all, we're talking about transits of planets and what they do, but I'd like to focus more on the theme for each month and where you can focus rather than just giving a bland chronological view of all of the aspects. So let's jump straight in and take a look at a couple of very important elements here. The first is I've just got to get this chart up here, otherwise I'm not going to know what I'm talking about. The 8th house is strongly triggered for you this month. The 8th house is the house of mystery, and any of the deeper elements of life, philosophy, that sort of thing, are going to fascinate you during February. You're really wanting a clearer insight into your psychological nature and how that's been impacting on your relationships, your personal ones in particular, and the level of intimacy that you can reach with that. That's important because, as you know from my past readings, we're seeing this rather obstructive Saturn moving through your 7th house of marital and intimate partnership sector. That can slow things up, but this is nice. The new moon refreshes you in that area. It gives you the opportunity to, commence things in and with a new attitude, and you're likely to get the support of your partner with this. The other factor there is Mercury transiting into the 8th house. It's there currently, which means that apart from just feeling good about this or locking all of this stuff in your brain, Mercury means you can articulate this. You can actually talk about it with your partner, and that, of course, is the edifice of any successful relationship. Mind you, when I talk about relationships here, because the 8th house has the Mercury, the Sun, the new moon there as the month starts, I would lean towards saying this is predominantly going to relate to your most personal relationships. But I don't want to exclude the business partnerships, the world at large, where you do have an opportunity to understand more clearly the shared resources that you bring to the table, the financial resources, the intellectual property, the ideas that you have, that you collaborate with others on. All of these things loosely come under the jurisdiction of this 8th house. So it is a really important time of your life to reevaluate that. The other thing is that the negotiation component of what I'm talking about is also brought out this month because there's a full moon on the 20th taking place in the 3rd house of your horoscope, and that is all about communication as well. In fact, the 3rd house has to do with contracts of all sorts, agreements, correspondence. So it might be not enough simply to talk about what it is you want to do to deepen your intimacy or your understanding of the partnership that you have, but you may need to ratify that and formalise it with a written agreement, or at least emails, so that everyone is on the same page. Once you formalise the understanding, you can put those documents to bed. The 3rd house also has to do with travels. These are more to do with local travels in the immediate vicinity. It indicates a busy period, and because the moon is your ruler, we see that wherever it's located, so number one, that new moon in your 8th house, and then the full moon in the 3rd house, these areas seem to be pointing predominantly, as I said at the beginning of the reading, the theme being shared resources, exchange of ideas and understanding, deepening your awareness, and then making agreements, communicating and agreeing on a path of action or certain terms and conditions of the relationship. That sounds a bit clinical, doesn't it? But believe me, when it comes to relationships, In my relationship, I've always felt that it's a good idea to have the terms and conditions nutted out before you enter into it. So I've been very careful in my relationships to try to identify exactly the terms of, for example, having an argument. How do you argue in your relationship? Have you thought about that? There should be some understanding. Look, you say to your partner, if I don't want to talk and I'm exploding, can we please just agree that we will discuss this after things have calmed down? Now, if you get an agreement on that, you realise that as angry as you are, and even if your partner's the sort of person that needs to talk about it now, then he's going to have to stick to that agreement, give you time to calm down, let the dust settle, and then re-enter into the discussion. So those contracts that I'm talking about are not only related to finance, although I did cover that as an 8th house matter. These contracts, these terms and conditions and agreements may have more to do with the way that you are dealing with your personal relationships too. If you don't have any clear-cut mechanism or protocol for how you deal with problems, how are you going to deal with them? That is where a lot of relationships bog down, and that is why it is so very, very important for you to look at that this month. I haven't talked much about work, but there is another aspect that I want to talk about here, which is the transit of Mars, which is really one of your luckier planets. It is the career planet. Where are we here? I'm just looking through the list of aspects. It's disappeared. I think it's around the 14th. There it is there. Mars moving through your 11th house on the 14th. Now that's interesting because you've got Mars currently still transiting the 10th house of your career, which is work. So you've got a whole lot of dynamic energy pushing in that direction. You're likely to be successful. Mars gets what's called directional strength in the 10th house. So any efforts you make will do well. And you mustn't be afraid to push a little. Mars endows you with that ability to do it in a way that is, maybe with its close conjunction to Uranus, that could be a little bit explosive. You need to be a little more diplomatic in the way you're pushing. But certainly you're a little impatient this month. You want things to happen. Rest assured it will happen, but you must wait. When Mars moves into your 11th house after the 14th, that's when things really start to culminate. You may have the drive, the ability to do the work that you want to do. You have the respect of the people around you, but the fruits of your action, the 11th house is the fruit of your action, starts to take place after the 14th. Mind you, apart from the profitability of your work ventures, this has to do with your social life, elder siblings, and overall fulfillment of life objectives. So there could be a lot of communication with friends after the 14th, a lot more socialising, and in fact even a ramping up of your efforts to fulfill some dream or goal that you've had in your back pocket for a while. So that's all good news for you. Do take some time, please, to go to my website, astrology.com.au. There you'll find a more detailed analysis of what's happening this month in February 2019. Drop me a line if you wish, Dadhichi at astrology.com.au. By all means, subscribe and come back next month. I'll be here. Take care now. Bye-bye.